Welcome back to Ripe Avocados, episode 21. Today we've got another horror movie, shocker, The Substance. Demi Moore, Dennis Quaid. Let's get into it.
Daydream, I fell asleep amid the flowers for a couple of hours on a beautiful day. Daydream.
The movie The Substance follows two leads, basically. It's Demi Moore's character, who's Elizabeth Sparkle, this actress that seemed to have popped off earlier in her career, and then, like most actors and actresses as they get older, just kind of sort of diminish away and lose their fame. And the other lead is Margaret Qualley, who plays Sue, which is her fucking clone, genetic offspring, whatever you want to call it, and is birthed out of Elizabeth Sparkle's back. And the way this happens is Elizabeth is trying to like keep her career afloat, basically, and keep her fame, but she doesn't know how to do it, and just goes through some shady ass black market routes to get this substance and injects herself with it, and she births Sue, who is this young, hot, super hot version of herself.
Yeah.
Smoking. And literally, like, comes out of her back like something straight out of the Alien movies.
Yeah, I wrote that down, actually. It's funny you said that.
Yeah, and basically it's a battle between Elizabeth Sparkle trying to, like, stay afloat and stay famous in a way, I guess, but also Sue then being the young, hot version of her, wanting to be the biggest star in the world.
Yeah.
And the whole thing about The Substance is they're supposed to remember that they are one person, but they just can't seem to find that balance. And everything goes insane in the third act. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it gets very crazy towards the end. I think that encapsulates it pretty well. Obviously, we're going to spoil it regardless here, but the characters I gave I actually really fucked with this movie, as I told you before. I gave the characters, though, a 7.4, and wow. I really thought, that doesn't take anything away from Demi Moore. I actually thought this was probably the best performance she's ever given, in my opinion. I thought she was amazing, and she will probably be up for a bunch of Oscar nods. But to be honest, I don't think the other characters are supposed to be as dynamic as she is. I mean, some of the scenes that she has, a couple that I wrote down were when she's watching Sue, and she obviously begins to develop this hatred towards Sue. But it's so neat how we're kind of reminded how they're the same person when it's obviously they're two different actors and it's a movie, but it does a great job of making it so ambiguous that they are the same person, if that makes sense. I probably worded that weirdly, but she's watching her on this talk show, like, talk shit about Elizabeth, Demi Moore's character, and she starts mimicking her and using the same voice, and it's pretty funny, honestly, but then you're like, oh shit, that's literally her, so that makes so much sense to why she's able to do this so effectively. You also just see her continue to downward spiral out of control. I mean, the scene where she's getting ready for that date with Fred is probably the one moment that a lot of people are going to relate to. I feel as though a lot of women are just going to really find themselves attached to this movie, because overall, I know we'll talk about this more in writing, but I loved, like, the message that this whole movie had. It's kind of a positive spin on a horror movie, if that makes sense. It's definitely horror. There's some extremely dark moments of it. But the other characters, like I mentioned before, Dennis Quaid's character, I think his name's Harvey, and then...
Shocker.
Yeah, I saw somewhere online that it was just supposed to be kind of a direct representation of Harvey Weinstein. But he kind of dresses like Vince McMahon, too, so people were like, oh, he should play Vince McMahon in the upcoming I think there's like a rumored biopic about him because there's obviously a shit ton of to go into there. That's a whole other can of worms, though. But then the other characters were just very typecasted Hollywood, like run-of-the-mill characters. I don't think Sue was supposed to have a ton of depth. She's literally a piece of Demi Moore. She's a clone of her. So I think her lack of originality is on purpose. She's kind of this dim-witted chick who's just super hot, and that's kind of her role. She's extroverted.
I mean, she just cares about herself. Really.
Yeah.
She just like is so infatuated with herself and just like loves the fact that everyone loves her and thinks she's hot.
Yeah.
And it's just like all going to her head, which is why the whole plan unravels.
But do you get what I'm saying? Where I think that her and Dennis Quaid's character, and even the other side characters we meet along the way, like her neighbor who has a crush on Sue but hates Elizabeth because she's old. Bro. They're all just supposed.
Her neighbor doesn't have a crush on her neighbor is just a horny like.
Yeah.
Predator.
Yeah, just wants to have sex with her or whatever. But they're all these really bland characters that I think encapsulate the dark side of Hollywood. That's obviously what they're trying to do here, is just to make it's all based upon your looks and your appearance. And Demi Moore is pretty much the only character in the whole movie, and Fred, I guess, who look beyond that. Fred is like the only one that sees her for her actual personality, and that's why it's a super heartbreaking scene when she ends up just comparing herself to her clone and not going out on that date. But that's why I only have him at a 7.4. But I do think that Demi Moore should be nommed for an Oscar upcoming in like the end of the year. So
I would agree with that. I actually gave characters an 8 too.
Okay.
I really like the characters. I don't have much else to, or a lot of the points you said I would agree with. Although the one part I would disagree with you on is kind of the side characters. I think their relevance to it was basically just to show how shallow a lot of people are besides Fred, really. Like, Fred's the only one that is like a nice guy, and guess what? Nice guys finish last. So, but yeah, like the hot biker guy that Sue brings over, like Demi runs into him or Elizabeth Sparkle runs into him on the street, and he's literally like, "Get the fuck out of my way, you old hag!" Yeah, like, even though he's on a bike, bro. Yeah, just ride around.
Yeah, that was a weird scene.
Like, but that's the thing. All the other characters were so over the top. It made sense. It was really trying to push that message where it's like, look, there are a lot of guys out there that are just scumbags. And especially in Hollywood, like that LA scene, I would imagine, it's just like a lot of guys that are like looking for superficial values and like, hey, if the girl's hot, I'm into her. If not, like, I'm out of there. And that's exactly what Harvey was, like, literally in the opening scene or in the beginning scene, when Elizabeth Sparkle overhears him on his phone and he's just like shitting on her completely while taking a piss, just ripping into her, saying she's like got an Oscar from the 30s for King Kong and like she's old as shit and ugly and he needs someone hot and young like right now. Again, another scene that is probably talked about a lot, at least I've seen online, is the Harvey eating the shrimp.
I have that written down as well.
Just like another analogy to him, like, you know, eating up these hot young girls and then just throwing the shells away like once they're done. It's like they were definitely trying to push that message, and I think the side characters did that very well, because again they were so like over the top extreme versions of, you know, shallow men in Hollywood, or men trying to take advantage of hot young women, all that stuff. So yeah, no, I gave characters an 8 too, because I thought they were done really well. I think, of course, Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley steal the show. Yeah, they're amazing. Dennis Quaid also,
he's good. Like, he's good.
He's such a creep in this movie. Like, he plays it really well. Dude, that one scene where it's towards the end of the movie where Sue is literally falling apart, her ears coming off, teeth are coming out, and Harvey walks up with all the other old creeps, and he's just like, "Give me a smile," and they're all just like looking at her, and Jesus Christ, bro,
made my skin crawl for sure.
I look like I should be renting a white windowless van and asking. But yeah, no, like I said, the side characters I think played their part perfectly for just portraying that whole like super shallow Hollywood scene.
Yeah, I don't think they did a bad job. I just don't think that their depth was important to the story. It was intentional for them to be really bland and whatnot and superficial, and I think it worked. So cinematography, I gave this an 8.0. I'll let you go too, so we can kind of chop it up after that.
Bro, I gave cinematography an 8.9.
Yeah, and like what
I really
I fucked with it a lot too. There was a lot of zoomed in shots. We touched on the shrimp scene. Another thing I wanted to add to that scene that I kind of thought of, maybe it has a little bit to do with the characters, but it's ironic to me how he's throwing them away and whatnot, but he's talking so much shit behind Demi Moore, behind her back, while he's literally disgusting, eating with his fingers, like not even wiping his hands correctly. Like his table manners are horrible, and she's sitting there being polite, like to his face and not saying anything.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really ironic scene. It just shows that her character has a lot more better values than he does and whatnot. But the zoomed in shots I thought were a fantastic element to this. I think Stanley Kubrick does this a lot. That's stuff that I've seen people talking about, but I know a lot of some of these hallway scenes definitely reminded me of The Shining. I mean, obviously at the end with
100%.
with the blood all over the place.
The blood.
Yeah. And then we have like the techno music kind of soundtrack throughout was all kind of techno-y. It seemed as though whenever there was a big transition, or honestly whenever one of them woke up, it seemed like there was a techno driven beat going on, especially when Sue was alive, because obviously she's way more lively and Demi Moore sort of becomes just a rat living in her house, and it's very, very dull. But I thought I thought everything was pretty cool. I also wrote down that you mentioned the alien reference when there's the birth scene, but that whole bathroom reminded me of the Saw original movie, with just the tiling in that room was all white and disgusting, and obviously there's just blood all over the floor in that movie. But it did kind of remind me of that as well. But then like we had the zoomed in shots, they were consistent with the really gross scenes, but also the scenes that were beautiful and meant to be whatever, not disgusting, you know.
Yeah. I kind of liked how like the movie was very, very colorful. Mm-hmm. Like when it's shot outside, when it's shot in her apartment, but in the bathroom it was like a mental hospital or like a psych ward.
Yeah.
All white, because that's where like the science is going on. That's where the experimentation is going on. That's where she's switching from body to body. So I thought that was like a cool addition. Mm-hmm. But I gave cinematography an 8.9. I thought all the camera shots were really cool. The different camera angles they used, the like concave and convex lenses, the whole like fisheye point of view. I thought all of it was kind of unnerving and unsettling, but it just added a nice element to the movie. I will say I gave it a pretty high score, but one thing that did kind of throw me off was some of the shots just stayed on the screen too long for me.
Okay.
I thought this movie was 2 hours and 21 minutes. I thought it easily could have been cut down to maybe like a 2-hour movie, and I think it would have been like even more incredible. I thought this movie was great, but like I get it. They probably like shot some of the shots to like over sexualize some scenes or just kind of build suspense maybe, but the whole 80s like pump it up video with Margaret Qualley, that scene seemed to go on for far too long, and maybe
I agree.
Like I was watching it and I was like, I mean, I'm okay with this, but like, why is this going on so long? Like, how many shots of her ass do we really need? I get it though. It's probably to like push that point where it's like, look, we're hypersexualizing Sue when Elizabeth is literally rotting in a back door in her bathroom.
Yeah.
But still, we don't need an extra 30 seconds of twerking and like crotch shots.
There's going to be a lot of people that disagree with you there, but I do think that...
Right. Never mind. I take it back. We need more Margaret Qualley ass shots.
It was a little over the top, I agree. But to counteract your point, I honestly wrote this down for writing, and we could get into that unless you have anything more to add on cinematography. But
oh, well, I mean, we got to talk about this. We got to talk about the makeup.
Yeah.
For... Jesus Christ, wait.
You good?
Oh my god. The makeup for Monstro Eliza Sue.
Oh my god.
Just fucking insane. Straight out of The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of people I saw were talking about like Cronenberg and how he does The Fly, and it's just like body transformation type movies. Have you ever seen the movie Tusk?
No.
It's with what's his name? The guy from Jeepers Creepers, Justin Long.
Okay.
Some guy literally turns him into a walrus.
Okay.
And he's like a human version of a walrus. It's disgusting. But that monster they created, the Monstro Eliza Sue, is horrific, and it's fantastic in every way.
Yeah.
Like, they really drove the point across on like, look, this is what ladies are doing to their body to like try to stay young and relevant and famous, but look at how far it can go.
Yeah.
If like you constantly get addicted to it.
This just gets really into the writing for me. I gave it a really high score. For a horror movie, and we got to keep that in mind. I give this an 8.2 for writing, and this has got to be up there with one of the better horror movies I've seen in terms of just the writing aspects. But
I gave writing an 8.0, so I'm right there with you.
Right. I mean, first of all, there's really not too many plot holes. Obviously, this is not completely realistic, but the whole message of the movie I really fucked with. And I think a lot of people will respect that and like this message, because all it would do to me is, I mean, you and I don't have cosmetic surgery, but people that do or feel like...
I got a BBL.
Yeah, I'm getting mine next month. But people that have infatuations with this kind of stuff, just take a second, watch this movie, and you'll start to appreciate what you have. And I think that's the whole idea of it. We hear this thing all over and over about Demi Moore looks so good for her age and whatnot. And that's kind of like the running theme of the movie. And they kind of trick you into saying that. Demi Moore is 62 playing this movie. She looks great. And I just did it right there. But even when she's getting ready for the date with Fred, it's so sad because she doesn't realize that she is a catch.
How good she's
a catch. Yeah. And she's just beating herself up. She keeps wiping off her own makeup. Then she starts like grabbing her face. I thought she was gonna like rip her face off in this point. That was
that's what I thought.
That was a crazily well acted scene by her, which just goes back into what we were talking about before. But finish your thought.
Yeah, no, I thought it was the perfect portrayal of like what social media is doing to young men and women across the world.
Yeah,
like that constant comparison you have to the next hot thing.
Yeah.
And like that billboard outside was the perfect representation of that. Mm-hmm. Like first she sees Margaret Qualley's body like in the bathroom, and then she's like changing her makeup up, and right when she's about to leave, she sees that giant billboard outside, and she's like starts going insane. Or she sees her reflection in the doorknob and starts going insane. And I mean, that scene alone should get Demi Moore that Oscar.
Yeah.
Like, that shit was, like, that was really powerful, honestly. And like I said, it's just a perfect representation of, like, what's going on in the world right now.
This movie just surprised me in a positive way. I didn't really expect it to have all of these elements of just just good messaging, in my opinion. It's not a negative movie, whereas you watch a lot of horror movies. We do this a lot, and the message in most of those is not overwhelmingly positive. It's just be faster than the slowest guy getting chased by Freddy Krueger or whatever.
Don't split up your group, bro. Yeah. Everyone stay together for the love of God.
This is for sure a psychological horror movie, but it's just way more... It has way more depth than that. I also wrote down that it's super ironic to me. I mentioned the Dennis Quaid thing, eating the shrimp, but also the fact that Demi Moore, she becomes grosser and grosser looking over the course of the movie because of what her infatuation is with her younger self, which is what we were just talking about. I didn't really know where they were going to go with this, which is why it's good. There could have been so many different ways they took the climax of this plot. I did think that there probably would have been an element of like the cops investigating her house and noticing there's just a corpse in her bathroom, but they do get rid of this theory quickly when she has the quickest home renovation project I've ever seen in like 2 days. She builds a perfectly symmetrical, like that was probably the biggest plot hole of the whole movie, when she just builds that dungeon to keep the corpse or whatever. It's not even a corpse.
Bro, it took me like 6 months to put 3 shelves up in my room.
It takes me like 2 hours to build a TV stand off Amazon, but nonetheless, she is literally birthed out of her her clone's back and immediately performs this surgery, like stitches her up, and then builds this bunker.
Yeah. She watched an episode of like Tim Allen's Home Improvement and just fucking went to work.
But my point being, going back to what I was saying before, it's so ironic to me how I thought that what was going to end up happening, since it's a horror movie, is Demi Moore is just going to become insanely more evil and try to like kill Sue. Because
that's what I thought. I thought she was going to exact her revenge.
But it's the opposite. It's literally Sue is the more evil one, despite she has all the physical features. It's Demi Moore realizing she cancels the substance membership, which is something that goes on throughout the movie. She's asked like 2 or 3 times if she wants to end the experience. She says no, but she's the one with the actual heart in this movie. And
I mean, she literally tries to kill Sue and then is like, no, like, you're all I have.
Yeah.
Like, this is it.
Yeah.
And I think that just speaks to, like, again, this movie definitely has ties with, like, celebrities getting cosmetic surgery done, of course. And, like, of course, there's other themes without this movie, but that's definitely the biggest one with the whole, like, body transformation. But I thought it just did, like, a really good job of alluding to that and, like, the addiction around that, because there's so many times, like you said, when she's realizing her actual body is taking on these effects that Sue is inflicting on her. Her finger goes, like, it turns into like a witch's finger at first, then like half of her body is old, then she turns into like the Hunchback of Notre Dame at the end of the movie, but or before she gets Batista bombed around her apartment by Sue. But just still, even all these changes and alterations that were happening to her actual body because of Sue, she couldn't come around to terminating it because she was just addicted to it. She wanted to get back to that feeling of like, oh, people love and adore me.
Yeah.
And even though I don't get to experience it like Sue does, we are one. So it is a part of me a little bit.
It's just like the human element that she is portraying.
Yeah.
She just can't come around to doing that. And it's just an ode to a positive aspect of humanity, which I thought was pretty cool. Another big plot hole that we have to throw in there is how she turns into whatever you said, the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I thought she reminded me of the evil witch in Snow White. But she's able to run like a 40 time. That's pretty competitive with today's standards while she's like literally a corpse. It's crazy. That was ridiculous.
She was literally dragging her body around.
Yeah.
But literally in the scene before that, when it's just half her body, her knee is like locked up when she's sitting in the chair and she can't even get up. I'm like, how's she doing
Yeah.
this?
So I mean, a couple minor things there, but every movie's gonna have like a couple plot holes. But I
Yeah.
think overall, like just the messaging and everything was really cool. I also liked how it ended with her at the Hollywood Star in the very
Oh
beginning.
yeah, just like it
Yeah,
began.
that was a nice little
And
touch.
and the burger splattering on
Yeah,
the guy with the giant burger splattering on the star,
Yeah.
and then she's just a lump of goo splattering and melting away.
yeah, that was a cool little touch. So the entertainment score I gave here, I thought this movie, like I said, was pretty good. It did surprise me. I gave it a 7.8 out of 10.
I'm not even joking. That's the exact score I have written down. 7 point.
Yeah, and well, let's get into the ending a little bit. So the ending, it becomes kind of a splatter scene here, little renditions of
Very Carrie-esque.
yeah,
Just blood spurting everywhere.
And-
over the top, but like, again, I get it. They wanted to make a message.
I think, yeah, at first I didn't really love how it ended. I did like the part where she was a scrambled egg just crawling to her star at the very end. I thought that was a cool little touch that they couldn't have had she not had this ridiculous meltdown, literally, where she's like Jabba the Hutt on national TV. But overall, I mean, it keeps you guessing, like we mentioned. They don't really.
Wait, sorry. You know who she kind of looked like?
Oh.
Have you ever seen the movie 300?
Yeah.
She looks like the Ephialtes, the guy with the or he can't lift the shield.
Yeah.
We need a side by side comparison.
No, that's
of those
a
two.
great comp. I also thought the Sue's face, like choking and with her mouth wide open, was super eerie on top of that.
Oh, like on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was disgusting.
Yeah, that was really gross. It was also like crazy how she was able to get back into the building looking like that with just like the picture of Elizabeth on her face. That was really just a big plot hole as well that we should throw in there. But it's not a perfect movie by any means, but it is very entertaining. And like I said, I really did like it because of the overall messaging. I would definitely recommend this to people of all facets, honestly. Even if you're not a horror fan, I think that you would get a good kick out of this movie. Like we've mentioned, it's not going to make you really feel afraid of anything. Oh my god, I can't talk. It's not supposed to scare you into scare you of the boogeyman or stuff like that. It's just kind of a reality check, and it makes you just appreciate what you have. Like, you and I aren't super old, but like I said, we don't have cosmetic surgery aside from Sean's BBL next month. And it's just
and a Johnson enlargement.
It's just important to like, it's campy and cheesy to say, but just appreciate what you have. No one is perfect looking, and had Elizabeth just realized this from the beginning, she would have been very happy. It would have saved everything had she gone on this date with Fred, because Fred definitely didn't give a shit about what she looked like. He thought she was gorgeous because she was, and he probably would have gotten over the witch-looking finger. Maybe that's what her mind was telling her, was that she wasn't going to be able to...
I'm not going to lie. So when I was watching that scene, when she was getting ready, I thought she was going to go on the date and he was going to be all about her, and then she would take her glove off and he would see the finger and he would be disgusted by it, which would make her go back and like continue the process.
Yeah.
But I thought her meltdown in the bathroom was like perfect.
Yeah.
Like that scene was incredible.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree.
And as you said, I would definitely recommend this to a lot of people. I will say it is kind of a long movie, and if you're not going to be invested in the story or the themes and meaning that they're trying to evoke and push through this movie, I don't think you're going to enjoy it. I think you're going to watch it and be like, what the fuck did I just watch? But if you really like settle in, watch the movie, and like try to immerse yourself into that message that they're trying to push, I think like you'll thoroughly enjoy this.
Yeah.
Like it really does a good job of pushing that message across.
Yeah, and I don't really think this movie's slow at any points either. You just have to not be on your phone, in my opinion.
I don't. It kind of goes back to what I was saying, where some of the shots are just like a little too long. Like, did I need to see Dennis Quaid eating that much shrimp.
No, but
I don't
that was
know.
a great. That was like probably the most disgusting scene of the movie, honestly.
Yeah.
I think it's just a very solid piece of work for what it was. I'm really shocked. I said this to you before we were recording, but I don't understand why this didn't get a bigger marketing campaign, because I think a lot of people would have gone to see this in theaters. Demi Moore is obviously a huge name that she alone would have probably got a lot of asses in seats. But nonetheless, I think that the internet and hopefully this podcast will do some justice, get people out to watch it, because I do think it is a solid watch.
Yeah. No, for sure. Dude, I will say, going back to cinematography a little bit, I love the cinematography in this movie. If I did have to critique one thing, though, dude, I fucking hated the, like, copy and paste, like, gifs of people into certain scenes where she, like, picks up the drenched piece of paper that Fred gave her with his number on it, and his face just pops up like the sun baby from Teletubbies.
Yeah.
He's just like, I think you're the most beautiful girl in the world.
Yeah.
It's like, I think they could have incorporated that a little bit smoother, but whatever.
I agree. I think part of it was just they're trying to make it uncomfortable as a horror movie. And that's what they're going for.
That, like, diner scene where she's in the diner and then she meets the old guy. Who was actually someone that used the substance, and, like, he was the young doctor or the young nurse practitioner, whatever it was.
I called that.
When he's shouting at her in the scene, or in the diner, I'm like, is anyone gonna, like, say, like, there's other people in that diner. But at the same time, like, I don't know, maybe it's LA, like, I'm sure the dude looked homeless, so, like, maybe...
Yeah, that was weird.
Maybe people are like, oh, that guy's having an episode, whatever.
Not to mention he looked like John B. post-Ugly surgery when he was, like, feeling up her back. He was like, oh, you'd make a great candidate. I was like, what the fuck is this about?
If I went to the doctor and anyone told me you'd make a great candidate, I would immediately be like, someone background check this motherfucker. Like, what is he talking about?
Not to mention he looked like he was 20 years old. You're telling me this dude finished medical school that quickly? I'd be like, what the hell is up here?
Yeah, no, fuck that.
Just the whole space where they were getting the substance materials seemed so ridiculous to me. Like, you're not going to run into one person there, and there's only, like, 15 of them. How are they funding all of this shit? But it's...
Also, I mean, again, this is just me nitpicking. I love the whole movie, and it probably has... The part that I would nitpick on it also, too, is, like, dude, she's going to this shady-ass back alley. She opens the door, it opens up, like, halfway.
Yeah.
The second I saw... I'd be like... what the fuck am I doing? Like, let me get the fuck out of here. But again, like, you know, I'm sure a lot of celebrities and stuff do a lot of black market type shit to keep up their appearances and whatever. So maybe it's not that far-fetched.
No, it's an exaggeration for sure, but it's done very well, and I think we both kind of liked it. So that gives us a final score here of an 8.0. Again, all of our... I didn't say this episode, but all of our ratings and reviews can be found on our website, which is linked in our bio. And until next time, peace out.
Deuces.
I dream of the places I've been with you. How we sat with the stream flowing.